The story begins with the quote of a poet named Dylan Thomas, which read, "Do not go gentle into that good night, rage, rage against the dying of the light." After that, we are shown a man, played by an actor named Axel, and we'll call him by this actor name. The night before, he got so drunk that he passed out, and strangely now wakes up in a concrete room alone. There were only rat carcasses, a padlocked locker, as well as a watertight metal door that was usually found on ships, and unfortunately locked from the outside. So it wouldn't open no matter how hard Axel turned the wheel lever. Then Axel checked his watch, which showed around 9 a.m. on April 1st. Axel was sure that it was all his friends doing, because it coincided with April Fool's Day. He was even more annoyed because he had to go to the office. The situation was exacerbated by his cell phone not getting a signal, and Axel was completely trapped in that room without being able to ask for help to anyone. Axel then continued to call his friend, because he was sure that it was all just a joke, and someone must be watching him from somewhere. But strangely, Axel did not find any CCTV cameras in the room. Then, because he had to pee, and there was no toilet there, Axel was no choice to pee in the corner of the room. And this is the story of the iron door. Because he was bored, Axel fell asleep for a few hours, and finally woke up feeling hungry and thirsty. He tried to call out to whoever was behind the door, knocking loudly, but still no one answered him. Not knowing what was really going on, and with the smell of pee and rat carcasses getting stronger in the closed room, Axel couldn't hold his emotions and tried to force open the locked locker. But that didn't work either. On the second day, Axel was still there, which meant the room was real and not a dream world. The room was getting stinky, especially now that the rat carcasses were covered in maggots. Axel was looking for a signal again, but still nothing. But unfortunately, his cell phone accidentally fell out of his hand and finally broke. Because Axel had been there for 2 days and had not drunk any water to quench his thirst, Axel peed in his shoe and very reluctantly, he drank his own urine. Axel felt that everything that happened in that room was far from an April Fool's joke, and out of emotion, Axel hit the lamp above him. He accidentally found a key. Axel thought what he was doing now was some kind of test, and he managed to unlock the locker with the key. It turned out that the locker contained nitrogen gas along with other tools, such as a gas hose regulator, lighter, wrench, hammer, and chisel. Not waiting long, Axel immediately installed nitrogen gas, lit the fire with a lighter, then tried to fish water from the fire extinguisher on the ceiling to drink, as well as take a shower. He then set fire to the metal door with the nitrogen flame, but his efforts were in vain. Water did not spray from the ceiling, and the metal door didn't melt at all. Axel almost gave up hope and assumed that someone was trying to kill him slowly, but his spirit returned once Axel thought of revenge to someone who dared to keep him in that room. After that, he found a crack in the wall behind the locker, and Axel tried to break into the wall by destroying it little by little using a hammer and chisel. Because he hadn't eaten and drank and lacked oxygen in order to stay strong, Axel was no choice to breathe nitrogen directly from his canister. He also ate maggots from rat carcasses and went back to drinking his urine. After recovering his energy, Axel continued to break into the walls. He finally found a concrete iron frame and set it on fire. After resting for a few hours, Axel continued to break down the wall, which had little left. Then Axel managed to make a hole so he could enter. Instead of appearing outside, it turns out that the room next door is almost the same room as the previous room. Maybe the next room is also like that. However, in that room the lights were flickering. There was an old-fashioned lamp lying at the bottom, along with a coffin. Out of curiosity, Axel finally opened the coffin, and apparently the coffin contained a woman. The woman, who we'll call by the name of the actress, Rungano, screamed and was very surprised and frightened to see Axel, because it turned out that Rungano had just arrived there and could not speak German. On the other hand, because he was too tired and Axel's mind was confused seeing the next room, which was equally locked, he ended up sleeping in the coffin. Then, Axel had been in the cursed room for 3 days. The next morning, he was awakened by Rungano, who was finally convinced that Axel was not a bad person. After seeing the state of his room full of debris, they took turns breaking the walls in the second room. But the action this time was a very, very slow process because Axel was tired, exhausted, and his hands were injured. Meanwhile, Rungano was not strong enough to chisel. Then when Rungano had to pee, Axel insisted on asking for her urine in his shoes because Axel was very thirsty. Rungano had no choice and then drank her urine too, but she was not as brave as Axel, who could eat maggots. After that, Axel continued to break the wall, while Rungano tearfully and said that she should have gotten married that day. Rungano also thinks that this is all a punishment from God for her past sins. Seeing her sadness, Axel tried to cheer her up by singing a song. Axel also asked Rungano to sing along to calm her down. Because for 3 days he only ate maggots and drank his own pee, Axel had a fever. And unintentionally, Axel injured his own hand with a hammer. After Rungano bandaged it with her headband, the two of them continued to break into the wall. However, Axel only held the chisel, while Rungano would hammering. But suddenly, the lever wheel of the metal door turned. Tired, hungry, thirsty, injured, someone was still playing pranks from behind the door. They think about it. At first, they wanted to open it, but the lever wheel was reversed again. Then when the two of them continued to break into the wall, the door lever wheel turned again. But strangely, it turned back the other way every time Axel or Rungano looked at the door. Axel had an idea. Maybe they should keep breaking the wall, then walk backwards slowly behind the door without looking at it, until finally they managed to open the door with their backs moved to it. Apparently, the door again does not lead out, and in this third room there is a chandelier lying on the ground, and there is an empty burrow or grave hole. Axel and Rungano also tried to follow the method in the second room, like by digging at the bottom of the grave while facing the door, but it didn't work in the third room. Axel, who was getting tired and feverish, finally stopped digging. This was because Axel was no longer strong, and because he was too stressed by everything that happened, Axel shouted, calling out to someone who brought him there. In fact, Axel thinks the figure behind it all is an alien. Axel also thought that maybe in this third room, the alien told Axel to eat the Rungano and bury it in the grave. But of course, Axel wouldn't do such a heinous thing. Seeing Axel getting weaker, Rungano tried to lift him out of the grave. Then she screamed, confused by what was happening there. Rungano continued to call out to whoever brought her to the room and questioned what she should do now. Crying, Rungano poured her tears on Axel, then groped his body until they finally had romantic activity. After that, they both fell asleep. But Axel, who was very, very tired, woke up to cover Rungano's body with his coat so she wouldn't get cold, and then he continued to sleep again. Until finally there was an iron door make a noise, which was the door wheel lever slowly turning on its own. With the last of his strength, Axel woke Rungano up, and slowly he walked backwards until finally the door was completely open. This time they actually came out of that horrible place, and there was such a beautiful nature behind it, although the scenery was not like on Earth. Luckily, after everything that happened in the 3 rooms, now they are completely free to the outside world. With their release, the movie was ended.